And long story short, made no money in the first 3 years. 18, 19, and 20, I was dead broke. We owned 6 deals, 60 million of real estate, but all the cash flow goes to the investors. Finally, we start selling our first deals at the end of 2020, and we start getting flushed with liquidity. We used all that liquidity to build out infrastructure. So in 2020, when we started our property management company, our construction company, really with an idea of scaling into a large private equity firm. And then we really started taking off. In 21, we bought 16 properties, over 560 million of value of real estate. And in 22, we bought another 16 deals, over 800 million of real estate. So in the first 3 years, we bought 60 million, made no money. The next 24 months, we bought 1.3 billion of real estate, and we've continued to scale.
Welcome to the Limitless Enterprise Podcast. Everyone, this is Zico Fernandez, the founder of Limitless Era, where we help companies grow and run efficiently with AI. You're watching Limitless Enterprise, the show about learning together from the best in the industry. I chat with founders, innovators, and operators about their stories, the lessons they've learned building their companies, and how are they thinking about the future, and specifically more about how are they positioning themselves for the future. With that said, I have Zack with me over here today. Zack, why don't you give a brief about yourself?
Yeah, thanks so much, Zico. Really appreciate you having me on the show. Looking forward to bringing some value to your listeners here. But yeah, I'm Zack Haptonstall. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Rise48 Equity. So we are a real estate private equity firm. We purchase existing multifamily apartment buildings, go in there and execute what we call a value add plan. We're building the interiors and exteriors, and then we sell them to get strong returns for our investors. So we've purchased 61 assets, nearly 12,000 apartment units, over $2 billion of real estate. We are located in Phoenix as our corporate office, but we have offices as well in Dallas and in North Carolina. So we have almost 350 full-time W2 employees, and we do all the property management in-house, construction in-house. And so, we're just kind of solely focused on investing on in these real estate deals.
Wow. So you're fully integrated.
That's right. Yeah,
Equity.
exactly. Yep, we're vertically integrated, Zico. That's exactly right. We have full control over all the day-to-day operations and the construction, which has really been a big competitive advantage for us over the years.
Yeah. I think that's unique in this that I'm seeing. I've not seen many that have construction also fully integrated. So that's good. That's awesome. So why don't you talk to me about how did you start this company, Zack? What were the early beginnings? What were you doing before that? Because your story seemed interesting when I was researching you.
Yeah. Good question, Zico. So yeah, quick background on me. I was born and raised here in Phoenix, Arizona. I just grew up in a lower middle class family. So no rich family, no money from my family, no real estate background or any contacts in real estate. I wanted to be a football player. So I played Division II college football, then realized I wasn't good enough or big enough to go to the NFL, Zico. So the next best thing was I was like, okay, I like sports. I want to be a sports reporter. I got a journalism degree. I was a live news anchor and sports reporter for a local station. Realized I don't like doing this. You can't make any money. I needed to make money because I was dead broke and had a bunch of student debt. So I went into healthcare marketing to make money, working for a hospice organization of all things. So I was making actually really good money, making 150, 200K a year in my early 20s, paid off all my debt, got my MBA, cash, bought a house. By the time I was 26, 27, I was just miserable and I had golden handcuffs. I was making good money, but didn't want to do that. So I quit my job. I had a little bit of equity that I had earned, the sweat equity in this hospice company, and I sold that to the company. And so just a combination of following the Dave Ramsey plan and relentlessly saving my money for about 5 years and getting a little pop of equity. I had almost $300,000 of cash. And I was like, okay, I want to make money through real estate. And I didn't know anybody in the industry. Again, I'm not exaggerating. I just didn't have any contacts. And originally I was like thinking of like flipping houses. Then I started thinking about that. And I was like, that's very transactional. It's basically what I was just doing with my marketing job. I want to learn how to, generate passive income. So I'm not just stuck in a hamster wheel to some job. So I started researching investing, listening to podcasts, started going online, reading books, going to conferences. And I learned about the whole concept of syndication where you can really raise money from other people. And I can leverage my time and energy and leverage other people's money to have a win-win situation. And then I really learned about multifamily apartments. So it was in January 2018, I quit my job, lived off of savings, decided I want to do this. And it was a real grind. I mean, I was burning through savings. I
Yeah.
didn't know anybody. I had to really just figure it out. I did not have a mentor or anything like that. Long story short, it took me 14 months to find and buy the first deal. It was a 36 unit, $3.5 million apartment building. I put all the money I had left into it. So I was dead broke. Had to get, part-time jobs and things like that to keep it rolling. Had credit card debt racking up. And long story short, made no money in the first 3 years. 18, 19, and 20, I was dead broke. We owned 6 deals, 60 million of real estate, but all the cash flow goes to the investors. Finally, we start selling our first deals at the end of 2020, and we start getting flushed with liquidity. We used all that liquidity to build out infrastructure. So in 2020, when we started our property management company, our construction company, really with an idea of scaling into a large private equity firm. And then we really started taking off. In 21, we bought 16 properties, over 560 million of value of real estate. And in 22, we bought another 16 deals, over 800 million of real estate. So in the first 3 years, we bought 60 million, made no money. The next 24 months, we bought 1.3 billion of real estate, and we've continued to scale. Since then, we expanded to Dallas in 2023. We expanded to North Carolina in 2024, and really have been able to build out, infrastructure. Now, going forward, we're just really focused on how can we take that next step to really scale it to the next level. So that's kind of how we've gotten to where we're at this point.
Your story is very inspiring for all those guys who are fed up of their day job or who think they have golden handcuffs. But I want to tease something out a little bit over there.
Yeah.
You decided to leave your job. How was that? What were the emotions going through your head at that time? Did you know? Many of them are reluctant to do this, right? And especially you did not have mentors, you did not have a strong foundation, say, right, to easily switch over, transition, and you had to figure it out. You had to figure it outable all on your own. So talk to us about that journey, especially in the beginning. It's only the reason I'm asking this is many people want to do this.
Yes.
Right? How did you persevere in those times?
It's a great question, Zico. I'm glad that you asked that, honestly, because before I quit my job, I was very unhappy for at least 18 to 24 months. And I knew that I wanted more out of life. You know what I mean? I was like, okay, I'm making more money than both my parents combined, making over 200K a year. I'm making more money than all my friends I went to high school with. I should be happy, and I feel miserable. I feel like a slave to this job. So I think that, and to answer your question, the feeling is terrifying. Okay. There's a ton of anxiety and uncertainty because you go from getting this guaranteed paycheck every 2 weeks to not knowing what you're supposed to do. And so what I will tell you, first of all, there's a ton of people who want to quit their job and maybe start a business. Okay. And I am all for it. I'm the biggest supporter. I'm trying to always help people that reach out. And I will tell you, the majority of the people, just to be honest, they're not cut out for it. And I'm talking about your like biological hardwiring, but some people are. So I would encourage people to give it a shot. For me, the company was going to sell, and they were basically, I was supposed to get a bigger equity pop is what I was told, and it wasn't going to happen. So it kind of pissed me off, honestly, and put a chip on my shoulder. And I'm actually grateful for it in hindsight,
Yeah.
because that was kind of the last straw, which pushed me out. I got into a dispute with them, and I said, screw this, I'm out. I'm going in a completely different industry because I had a non-compete. So it kind of pushed me into it. And there is no blueprint for being an entrepreneur. Okay. I had gotten an MBA. It means nothing. Okay. The MBA does not help you, because when you're going to be an entrepreneur, the traditional education system was not established to breed entrepreneurs. Okay. I just finished reading a book called, this would relate to your topic, Zico. I need to learn more from you, called the AI driven leader. Right. And in the AI driven leader, they talk about how, in the early 1900s, John D. Rockefeller created a board of education with the entire goal of reshaping public education to train kids to take orders and be workers in industrial society, so that basically, and not much has changed in public education. And I'm not trying to go on a rant here, but my point is that myself and most of American population, we're not trained or educated on how to be an entrepreneur. And that comes down to even your mindset and your ability to take risk and take on challenges, adversity, and anxiety. And so, that transition was extremely terrifying. It was very, it's just scary because there's uncertainty.
Yeah.
So when I first quit the job, I'm like, am I doing the right thing? This is stupid. You have people telling you shouldn't do it. And after several months of this, where you're just literally burning through your money that you've worked so hard, it's very discouraging. I lost all confidence, Zico. I really lost my self identity because I went from being the man in this industry, like a dominant
Yeah.
A player sales guy who I wake up in the morning, I know what I'm supposed to do, I know what success means, to now waking up in the morning, I don't have a boss, I don't have any structure to tell me what to do. I have to just create things out of thin air and figure it out. And that's a very challenging thing. But through that path, I grew so much, and I developed a lot of grit and you learn how to trust yourself. And so it's not easy. I think the biggest thing for me was that I had saved up a lot of cash where I had cushion. So if you have cash or you have some type of income stream from investments to give yourself, or you have your partner or significant other is, earning income. Cause after the first year, I was dead broke and credit card debt. My then girlfriend, now wife, she was paying our bills. Okay. We were living together and she had my back 100%. And so I couldn't have done it without grace either. But, you need to have some type of a plan, and you have to realize that if you're going to take that jump, you are taking the path less traveled. And most of society, they're not going to approve of it. A lot of people are going to feel threatened or jealous
Hmm.
that you actually have the courage to even try because they want to try it, but they'll never do it.
Yeah.
And so you have to kind of have a warrior mindset. Okay. And that's just when you get going. And then when you become a business owner and you start to actually achieve some success, you're going to get a lot of haters. Okay. You're going to get a lot of critics. They could be your competitors. They could be your family. They could be your so-called friends who are just, again, jealous, whatever it is. And you have to maintain that warrior mindset as you continue to grow because business is so dynamic. Everybody's constantly trying to take you down, but you change your entire mindset, and it really can harden you the longer you're in it. And so I would just say that, um, for people who really feel that itch and you feel unhappy, I tell people that you always have backup plans. Like if you quit your job and you go try to take on that venture, there's no reason if you fail that you can't just go back and get another job in that industry. You only fail if you completely quit and stop trying. Like for me, Zico, I quit my job January 18. So fast forward 18 months. Now it's September of 19. We had bought, 4 or 5 deals, 35 million of real estate. On the outside, I would look successful. I was dead broke because all the money goes to the investors. I ran out of money. My non-compete at my previous company ran out. So I had to go make money. So I actually got a job as the president of a new hospice company. And I had to be the president of this hospice company during the day. And we were running the real estate company at night. My partner, Bikram, who's our CFO, he had a full-time accounting job. So like every night, Monday through Thursday, we're getting on a Zoom call for at least 3 to 5 hours, anywhere from 6 to 9, 6 to 11, depending on the night. And we're running our real estate company, going through asset management, acquisitions, investor reporting, accounting. And so, I've done both where you're basically working the day job and you're building your company at night. I first quit the job and tried to do everything full time, which was, got me progress. But then I ran out of money. I had to kind of go back and do both. And then I did that for about 18 months. And in January or February of 21, I quit again the second time. That's when we took off because we were just laser focused on it. So what I tell people, Zico, is that when you are trying to start a company, it could be real estate, any company, you have to just survive. You got to stay above water. You got to keep moving forward, keep pushing, just survive. Don't worry about the tangible evidence of your success because it's not going to be there for a while. You have to know that it's all working in your subconscious and your mind, and you got to keep pushing forward because at some point, if you do not quit, I promise you, it is inevitable. If you do not quit, at some point, you will break through and there will
Yeah.
be that turning point where you take off. Okay. And so that's kind of how you have to learn. And now we're starting other companies, ancillary businesses, and I know what that path looks like. I know the adversity. We have one company we started, we hired a CEO to run it, and I've had to talk to them and just say, listen, this is part of the whole journey. We will break through. And sure enough, we're about to break through and break even on that business. And so that's just the mindset, to get that going.
Yeah, that's a pretty detailed and long answer. I realize you're very passionate about this and you've gone through a lot. And also that move after that in 21, the trajectory. So I was trying to understand what did you have to be or become in the months of the 2 years before, 3 years before to then get that growth like 21. Talk to me about that time now. What did you guys, 5 to 9, 5 to 11 every day. I think that's what it takes to be with your partners. It's like running a side gig is not few hours. You need to do it every day, and it helps when you're working with your partners because otherwise I always believe that 1 plus 1 is 11 in a way that
Yeah.
when you collaborate, talk to each other, the ideas just flow. You can do things easily, and it's a lot of matching each other's frequencies, and then after things flow, right? So there's definitely a lot of things that you did that got that foundation for you to then go for 21. What was that? What helped you propel that? What
Yeah.
was that move like?
No, you see, it's a great point you make, Zico. I think it's incredibly important to have at least that one complementary business partner, right? Because I spent the first 8 to 10 months, quote unquote, dating different business partners. You meet people at conferences, at meetups, say, hey, you want to work together on multifamily investments? Yeah, let's partner together. And what I realized is some people just don't work as hard as me. They don't care. They're not committed. Some people are actually experienced and have a track record, but they don't want to do anything. They just want to use you and not really play a role. And then there was one guy I was working with. He was busting his butt. We are having nightly phone calls. But then I realized we have the exact same skill set. I was like, you do what I do. Like your strengths are my strengths and your weaknesses are my weaknesses. That doesn't help me get to my goal. So I had to cut him. Okay. So what you need to find is the most important thing, whether it's real estate or whatever business it is, you need to try to identify what are your strengths in that business, right? Because every business has different dimensions, whether it's sales and marketing, leadership, accounting, whatever it is. There's different, departments or dimensions to a business. What do you enjoy doing and what are you really good at? Then identify what are your weaknesses? What do you hate doing? What I realized, Zico, is I was sitting in front of spreadsheets for hours trying to underwrite deals and I wanted to kill myself. I freaking hated it. You know what I mean? I'm like,
Yeah.
this sucks. I have an MBA, but I'm not a numbers accounting guy. I hated it and I'm not efficient at it. I was like, I need to find an elite finance guy who's really good at this. And after meeting with several people, I finally met Bikram. So Bikram Sandhu is our CFO and co-founder. He has an economics degree. He was a corporate auditor at one of the big four accounting firms. He's an elite finance guy who likes spreadsheets and he likes finance and economics and he's really good at it. He doesn't want to talk to people or raise money. And so that was my perfect symbiotic complementary business partner. And I think you need to find that for one, to answer your question, just to have complementary skill sets so that you have different people working on different aspects of the company to make the company grow and be successful overall. But to your point, you need to have like that accountability partner. And when you said 1 + 1 = 11, that's true. Like you can progress exponentially further when you have camaraderie, you have somebody that you feel like, is your teammate and is in it with you. And so to answer your question, we had to start learning all the different dimensions of this business. So my wife was working full-time in the business for free. Bikram's wife was working full-time for free. So we basically had 4 full-time people. We had a third partner, Robert, who was focused on construction. So we were able to do every little dimension of this business. And in real estate, how it works is that in order to generate revenue, it's based on like fee revenue, and then you're going to make what's called GP promo or sweat equity on the back end, taking acquisition fees on those first, 3 or 4 deals. We wanted to prove ourselves to investors, prove our track record. Well, after we started to sell our first deals, we bought a deal, we executed the business plan, then we sold it, and we had a very successful return for our investors. And that took about, 2.5, 3 years at least.
Okay.
That's when we started catching momentum. Okay. Because as we started selling these deals, investors are happy with their returns. They're reinvesting their money with us into new deals. They're also referring us a ton of their colleagues. So our ability to raise capital increased exponentially. And then also we have to source these new investment opportunities from brokers. There's real estate brokers.
Yeah.
There's like 4 or 5 of them in every major market that control 90% of the inventory. And it's a very discrete list of buyers that they work with. So you have to prove yourselves. After we started buying these deals and showing that we could perform, we started getting off-market deals from brokers that other groups were not getting. So now we're sourcing better deals that other people aren't seeing. We can execute on actually acquiring them because we can raise more money. And now that we are investing in infrastructure and we're building our portfolio, we're generating more recurring fee revenue. And we took all that carried interest or back end sweat equity we're making on the deals we sold, we reinvested it into the company's infrastructure so that we could start to build out our own property management staff, our own construction staff, our in-house accounting, in-house investor relations, et cetera. Because Bikram and I and our wives, we were wearing all those hats for every department previously. And, it got to the point where it was not sustainable. And every company goes through this, this growth trajectory. But the good thing was is that because we had done every single role, we could then recruit, interview, and train people to start replacing us in those different departments. And that's when we can scale, right? And so it all kind of has to happen in conjunction where you're generating more revenue, which allows you to reinvest into infrastructure so that you can then scale and continue to go from there. And we're still working on how do we become more efficient and continue to scale at a higher level, because I used to be so in the weeds in the business, and I've been focused on the last 12, 18 months on how do I delegate more? How do I empower our team? We established an executive leadership team, which is like our top 6 people. It's the 2 owners, Bikram and I, and then 4 of our top people, so that we are now making decisions as a team. And ultimately, as CEO, I have ultimate, veto power of the last decision, but I want to empower these people so that I can be at a higher level and focused more on, strategic vision and things like that. And so you just go through these progressions
Yeah.
over time.
You have to build your next level of leadership so you can scale and grow, right? The business. And so there's so much to unpack there, but I'll leave it there. It's what I'll say is it's a lot of the skills that you gained that helped you recruit folks. You were able to build those skills to identify who are A players and recruit them, and the people matter a lot. And secondly, you were able to build proof in the years past that helped make things easier for you to work with source deals as well as source investors. I'll say both of them are sourcing in a way, right?
That's right. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So, okay, this has been really insightful. Thank you so much. I think we covered a lot of ground over there.
Of
Let's
course. Yeah.
jump into so we talked about what your company does right now. Talk to me about who your customers are. If you look at all the players that you interact with, for you, it's more investment. So it's funds. You have to work with accredited investors and non-accredited investors. How you go about, is it all referral based? Are you doing marketing? Talk to me about how do you get these people in? How do you showcase? What do you do to attract people to grow this? Because that's one part. The more you attract, that helps. And also the more you source deals, that helps, right? Talk
Yeah.
about these two. And is there another one for your business? I tapped into these and that's what I had coming in. Talk to me about what are the levers for you to continue to improve and grow?
Yeah. Great question, Zico. Great question. So, yeah, I mean, basically, we have a couple different stakeholders. One is obviously, our investors who we have a fiduciary duty to serve, and they are like our customer, our client, so to speak. Other stakeholders are the lenders, on our properties. But if you want to focus on the investors, because that is like our direct client, so to speak, the first few years, this was just like guerrilla warfare marketing. Okay. Now, I'll say this with a caveat. We are regulated by the SEC, right? Because we're raising money from passive investors. So we constantly are talking to our SEC attorneys, and everything we're doing is within the regulations of SEC parameters. But, we have a marketing department, and that's just one, dimension or department of the organization. But we do a pretty good job at marketing with our marketing team. And it's not me, it's our marketing team does all that. But initially, I started a meetup, and it started with like 10 people. Then I got to 50, then like 200 people started showing up. We did a lot of social media, and I'll tell people, I'll be honest with you, personally, I hate social media. Okay. I don't think it's healthy. I think it is actually mentally, psychologically unhealthy because I think it creates fear of missing out, things like that. However, it's an extremely powerful marketing tool and is very necessary for business in this day and age. And so we leverage a ton of social media, but I do it all through our team. Okay. So I have personally never had an Instagram account, and I have not done a post on LinkedIn in over 4 years. Our team runs my account. People think I'm posting like every day. It's our entire marketing team doing it for me. I actually took LinkedIn off my account or off my phone in September of 24 because I didn't want to get distracted. I just wanted to be laser focused on the business. So people think I'm posting on LinkedIn every day. I think we've got like over 20,000 followers now, and I'm not even on there. Okay. I trust our marketing team over the years to know what content to put out. So I think you have to constantly be in front of people, whether it's real estate, whatever your business is, putting out content. Now, initially it was me being on a ton of podcasts, kind of like yours, Zico. I think I've been on 60 or 70 podcasts. So we're posting that, we're editing clips. If I'm going to conferences and I'm speaking, all these different opportunities present a chance for you to portray credibility, right, to the public, where you are, a thought leader, so to speak. So it's speaking at conferences, it's going to events, it's having team events. We do a quarterly all staff meeting, for example, where I'm speaking to the team, talking about our core values, our goals. That generates content. When we close deals, that generates content. I will go at properties that we've already purchased. I'll go with our videographer, Luke, and we'll do an update video where basically I'm just showing investors before and after.
Before and after, yeah.
Yeah, this is the property we bought. Here's the renovations. Here's what we've achieved. That generates content. So all the content we're generating on LinkedIn, social media is being created with the goal of driving people to a calendar link. The first few years, this calendar link was coming to me. And no exaggeration, I was pounding 8 to 10 scheduled phone calls a day. These are 30 to 60-minute calls with investors who are interested and they're qualified. And so I'm basically just cranking these calls myself, explaining to them, answering all their questions. And then we can compliantly put them on our investor list for future opportunities that are months out. Right. Well, then that got to the point where that is not sustainable or scalable. And so we really started to partner with different fund managers, or aggregators, so people who
Okay.
basically can raise money from their network into a fund and then deploy it into our deals. So instead of me going and getting a $50,000 check, we're getting a 500K to a $5 million check, and that allows us to scale. Okay. We then created our own investor portal. Okay. So it's a tech company. And we started this in 2021. We engaged these software engineers who are based in Ukraine, and we built out our own investor portal because we didn't like any of the portals that were out there. They didn't have the customization, the user interface, and the workflows that we thought we needed for our investors. We built out this portal, and basically what we've done is created a white label turnkey portal for fund managers. So people can basically go out there, raise capital from their investors. They engage their own SEC attorney for their fund. The investors are signing their PPM, and then they deploy it into our deals, and we sign them up on our portal. They have their own logo, and our team is doing back end fund administration for them. So it's allowed us to basically retain 100% control, be SEC compliant, and scale our ability to raise
Yeah.
capital. Right. And so that's something that we've done that's been really effective, so we can get bigger checks.
And so what I really like is you matured from doing with retail investors to more like referral base, right? So you have fund managers and they can do one to many. So I like
Exactly.
that part, right? So
That's
that's where it
exactly right.
allows you to scale and
Yeah, exactly right.
checks
And
are
how
good.
it works is we are diluting or discounting our sweat equity or compensation. So we're making less money on the fund managers than we would on individual
Direct.
investors. But that's how you scale, right? And so it's kind of doing more volume and things like that. And so we're still raising retail high net worth investor capital, but at a larger scale. And so far since 2019, we've raised just over $1 billion of cash equity from investors. Our next level now is to raise institutional capital and much larger
Okay.
partnership. That's kind of what we're working on now.
Okay, that's interesting. We'll get there. So let's move along. Talk to me about what do you see as the trends in the industry right now. I know that PE firms. You're a PE firm, but there are other PE firms. I don't know. There's BlackRock. There are a
Yeah.
lot of other folks that are also getting in. Multifamily is very challenging to find good deals. At least that's where it looks. You have inside deals. You need a good. So talk to me about the trends that you see and how do you position yourself to succeed to do the most or make the most of these trends or challenges also? You can talk about both
Yeah.
there.
No, good question, Zico. So yeah, multifamily has been extremely challenging for at least the last 36 months. Okay. So we had this huge run up in 2018 through 2021. And then in 2022, the Fed started their most aggressive interest rate hike ever. Okay. It was the most intense interest rate increases in over 40 years since the 1980s. Right. And so there's been a ton of distress in the market. And a lot of the industry has just been frozen for literally over 3 years, where transaction activity has been extremely low. It's been the lowest it's been since the GFC 2008, 2009 recession. And so, I think that as we're recording this, you and I, beginning of November 2025 here, things are starting to open up a little bit, right? We think that the worst is behind us. We've had headwinds the last few years. There's been a couple of reasons for the headwinds. One is the interest rates, which obviously increased so quickly. It made it very challenging for people who bought deals end of 21, early 22. And then it made it really challenging to buy any new deals because a lot of the math just doesn't work with such high interest rates. The second thing was that there was so much new supply of multifamily housing that flooded the market. Okay, so from 2018 to 2021, you had all these growth Sunbelt markets like Vegas, Arizona, Texas, Florida, the Carolinas, Atlanta. All the people are moving to these markets. All the companies are moving. There's new jobs, new population growth, created a huge need for housing, right? And so all these multifamily developers start building new apartments. Well, it takes at least 2 to 3 years for these new developments to get delivered, meaning that the new apartments are now completed and people can move into them. Okay, well, that started to really hit in 2022 through 2025. It's happening as we speak, where you're just getting flooded with new supply. At that same time, as many people remember, 22, 23, inflation nearly hits 9%. Right.
Yes.
And so people cannot afford their groceries, their gas. They don't have as much disposable income. So it was kind of a perfect storm, Zico, where you had interest rates are elevated, inflation's extremely elevated. And now this goes down, this comes down to economics 101, supply and demand. You all of a sudden had more supply than you had demand, more housing than you have people to occupy that housing. And when these Class A apartments were being built, they're being built, and the only way for these properties or these investments to make sense economically is that they have to command premium rents. We're talking $3,000 plus a month rents because the cost to build was so high. Well, now you have a very small portion of the renter demographic that can afford those rents. So what's happened is it's become a race to the bottom where everybody is undercutting each other, fighting for occupancy by giving what we call concessions. Some of these properties are giving 2 to 3 months free rent because they need to occupy and lease up these properties. And what's happened is organic rent growth went from anywhere from 5 to 15%. It was positive 5 to 15%, 2019, 2020, 2021, depending on one of these Sunbelt
Mhm.
markets. The last 36 months, it's been negative. Rents have actually been going backwards because you have more supply than you have demand. So that's been the challenge is now, where do I see going forward? I want to give you that context to answer your question.
Yeah.
Since the summer of 22, interest rates start to skyrocket. Those interest rates blew up a ton of construction loans and they pretty much froze most or all new multifamily development. So nobody's been building new apartments the last 3 years. Well, the residual effect of that is about to be realized, meaning that the next 12 to 24 months, you're going to have a ton of absorption, meaning that in these major markets, like we are in Dallas, Phoenix, and North Carolina. Those markets are top 5, top 10 in the country for population growth, job growth. So there's a ton of people moving in migration to those markets. I just saw data from U-Haul that in 2024, the top 3 cities for new U-Haul moves, not in this particular order, but I know that they were Charlotte, Dallas, and Phoenix were top 3,
Okay.
right? And that's the markets we're in. So my point is people are still moving to these markets. Supply is going to drop off a cliff the next 12 to 24 months because no new apartments are being
Yeah.
delivered. That means absorption or demand will outpace supply. And when that happens, you will have positive organic rent growth, which increases the value of the assets. We think at Rise48 that where we're at right now is the bottom of the market for pricing and values. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Because as interest rates continue to cut, the Fed just cut in September and October, and they're probably going to cut again in December.
Yeah.
As interest rates go down, values of these apartment buildings will go up. And as supply gets absorbed, organic rent growth comes back. That will drive positive net operating income growth, which increases value. So we do think, Zico, that we are in this 6 to 12-month window, which is perfect timing to buy solid opportunities. Now, to your point, it's been tough to find deals that make sense. We've been buying a lot of distressed deals the last 36
Yeah.
months. Right now, as the time of this recording, we have 4 deals under contract. One of them we're buying directly from a lender who already foreclosed on the other borrower. And so that borrower wiped out all their investor equity. We're buying another deal where they bought it near the end of 2021 and they're selling it for a loss. So they're wiping out a good chunk of their equity. So we're buying distressed deals. We bought a deal a few months ago where we bought it for the loan amount and the seller wiped out all of their equity. And so there are good opportunities to be had right now, but the only people who are selling, and you have to basically buy it at such a low basis for the economics to make sense because interest rates are so elevated, right?
Yeah.
And nobody is selling if they don't have to. We have not sold a deal at Rise48 since July of 2022. So coming up on 3.5 years because it has not made sense to sell with high interest rates and low valuations, the only groups that are selling are groups that kind of have to sell because of some
To raise
distress.
money.
Sure. Yeah. So, anyways, I mean, there's good opportunities right now, but they're hard to find.
So distress folks are the only opportunities right now, and it's not a right time to sell because the values are gonna increase in the next 12 to 18 months.
Correct. And the only other exception is if there's a group that's owned it for so long, they have little to no basis, they can sell today and still make good money. We just bought a deal in Phoenix from a mom and pop owner. They owned it since 1999 for 26 years. So like they didn't have a basis. They owed nothing.
Yeah.
They bought it for so cheap, they're still going to make money. And the guy had just passed away. So his kids wanted
Mm.
to sell it. That deal made sense. We bought it for a low basis. But yeah, those are the only opportunities we're seeing that really make sense. But we think now is the best time to buy because we think values will go up the next 24, 36 months.
And talk to me about, so what that means is you would be raising a lot of funds now, or you probably already raised funds so that you can put into these deals in the next, and you guys are going to be very busy right now.
Yeah, we are. We just closed the deal about 4 weeks ago. We have 4 deals under contract. So we'll end up raising about 65 million of equity in Q4 of this year to buy well over $100 million deals. And so we are ramping up for what we think will be a busy 2026. So with our current structure, the way we do it is we get the deal under contract, we go out to investors and we raise all the capital within a few weeks, and then we close on the deal. Typically, we're
Okay.
closing from 60 to 90 days from when we go under contract. That's how we've always done it. That's how we're doing it now. We'll continue that channel, but we also want to have, some type of institutional fund where we're getting commitments from institutional partners up front, and then we can go out and deploy that capital when we find good
Quickly.
opportunities.
So with
Yeah.
institutional funds, you can deploy that capital a lot more quickly if they have
Yep.
commitment. Okay. That makes so much sense. From the challenges you talked about from an investment point of view, there's more opportunities. Just looking at it from your company point of view, you said you always improved, your scale, your company is so big right now. Did you say 370 people?
Almost 350.
350? Yeah, 350 people. That's a lot, right? So talk to me about just, maybe before talking about that, your company is really big, you're vertically integrated. There's lots of improvement opportunities that you probably feel that you could do. But talk to me what's top of your mind right now in terms of challenges that will help enable you to do whatever you want to do, whatever's the objective, just fill in the blanks.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. So I've been really focused the last 12 months on building more leadership infrastructure throughout the organization. And so I'm trying to replace a lot of the stuff that the owners do by empowering our team, and that also comes in with hiring, making key hires. And so about 6 months ago, we established core values for the company, and we do quarterly all staff meetings and I roll out those core values. And what we've seen is, we're not trying to be politically correct here. We don't care if people don't like our core values. We want people who align with the core values. And we are now doing quarterly reviews for every employee on one performance, but also how are they meeting the core values, right? The core values are hungry for growth, which means we want ambitious people, team before me, which means we want selfless
Creative,
people.
selfless, yeah.
We want people, one of our core values is relentless attack mode. We want people who are aggressively trying to attack their goals in their career. And we tell people, hey, within reason, you don't take advantage of this, but we'd rather you try to innovate and come up with new ideas and be autonomous. And I'd rather you ask for forgiveness than for permission because we want people to feel like they're in an environment where they can innovate and adopt their new ideas,
So you
right?
want people to take more risks.
We want people to take more risks, obviously within reason. I'm talking about creating systems and processes within leadership. We're not talking about the risk profile of the investments that we are
Yeah.
pursuing. We're talking about, hey, if we have this internal reporting process and you think there's a broken link somewhere or a person we're missing, then speak up and tell us your idea. And if it can optimize things, or hey, is there an AI tool we can use to make ourselves more efficient? And we're really trying to lean into AI right now. And so I'm about to start. I just engaged a guy to do an AI workshop to come into our company. I'm gonna pay him $10,000 to come in for 8 hours and just basically give us ideas of use cases. And it's not necessarily to eliminate jobs; it's to make us all more efficient and elevate the roles that our current people are doing. So they're not spending as much time on admin and
Yeah.
stupid clerical stuff. You know what I mean? And that includes me too. I don't want to be doing stuff like that. So yeah, so we're trying to see. So, anyways, what I said hungry for growth, team before me, relentless attack mode. Another one is not afraid to fail. We want people who are not afraid to fail. They're willing to push their comfort zone. And I want to develop like little entrepreneurs, what you can call entrepreneurs, right?
Yeah,
In our company. So they
that's the
feel
word.
like, yeah, they're leading their departments. And then the fifth core value is results over politics. So we tell our staff we want a culture of a true meritocracy based on merit, not based on your friendship with your supervisor or any BS like that. So it's funny, Zico. I announced these core values in July in Dallas, and the next week, I think we had 5 people resign. And I was like, oh crap. I mean, I asked some of the staff, do you think that was too much? And they said, no, those people didn't fit our culture. And they actually were crappy employees. And so they self-identified that things are changing here. I just did the one in Phoenix and we had 3 people resign. And we said, okay, good. If you don't want to match, our core values, then we need to get these people out. And we need to get, people that are going to align with us because we're trying to be elite. We're trying to compete at the highest level, and you have to be very selective about the type of people you bring into your company and your culture. And so those are the things we're really focused on. Is our
Your vision is really good. I like that you did your core values, and the people that do not align will show themselves the door, and those people who align will get attracted to you. So this is a lot of also, what if you read the book Good to Great by Jim
Yep,
Collins, he
we
also
did.
says it's always the right people first to then get the right thinking.
Yep.
From there, the right strategies and the right action will follow, right? And you have to have these at the right places too. So it's all about making sure, ultimately you need people, and the right people, and the people who can think and collaborate well. So
100%.
people are your asset. I like that. I wanted to double click a little bit on the AI bit that you said. Where are you guys with your AI journey? I heard that you are actively interested in improving this, and you're taking the approach of having people learn the skill and do it. Has there been already some things done? What are you looking at? What have you read about it? Have you seen other people in your adjacent or your competitors or your colleagues in areas using AI, and anything that interests you or intrigued you?
Yeah, good question, Zico. I'll say we're in the infancy stages. I've literally just decided in the last 2 weeks, I need to really embrace this and be the leader and show people that this is a priority. Because I'm not naturally a tech guy. You know what I mean? But I realize I need to be the one to embraces this and shows people this is the standard. So we just signed up for a company that basically helps to automate a lot of the underwriting on the front end for deals using AI. So instead of like our analysts doing all this manual clerical entry of financials and stuff like that, it can automate a lot of that just to save a lot of time. And so we have implemented that. Some people in our like accounting department are using Microsoft Copilot to help with like clerical items, like with spreadsheets, reports, things like that. I mean, there's an app called, I was referred by somebody, it's called Whisper Flow, which is basically just like a dictation
Yeah.
app, right?
You can save 3 to 5 hours a day by using that app.
100%. Yeah, I would recommend everybody needs to download Whisperflow. I literally just got it last week, Zico, and I'm like cranking through my emails so fast because the Apple dictation sucks. It doesn't work very well,
Seriously.
right?
And these guys also do bullets, your pointers, they make it look good also, right? It's not like a
Yeah.
blob of
You don't
text.
have to
So
do the grammar or anything, right? So I just sent out an email to our company last week. I said, hey, we need to start implementing this. So our IT is starting to implement that onto people's desktops and phones, stuff like that. And then, I mean, like I said, I just read this book, The AI Driven Leader, and it was kind of educating me that, you need to use AI more as a thought partner, right? Which means that as a business owner or a leader, whether you're a director or whatever your role is in the company, you are the thought leader, which means that your job as the human thought leader is to create the vision and create the strategy of the company. But you can use AI or these LLMs, these large language models, kind of like Chat GPT or whatever, use them as your thought partner to bounce ideas off of them and help you to develop strategies or tactics. And the only way to do that is you have to understand how to properly prompt the
yeah.
LLMs, right? And so this is something that we're just learning, and we need to get better at. And we want to implement this throughout the entire organization. We want the leaders, the directors, and the managers of our different departments to start using this to learn how they can optimize their systems and processes within their department. So I was so stuck, Zico. I've been kind of negative and pessimistic on AI, stickle, because I'm like, everybody talks about AI. What the hell does it actually do? How do I apply it? And I'm realizing, yes, there's certain things that AI can help with optimizing your systems and processes to make you more efficient, like the whisper flow, for example, but that's not all it is. You have to
No.
use it
Yeah.
as a thought partner, and the only way to get the most out of it is properly prompting it. And I'm literally learning this as we speak. I just read this
Okay.
book a few days ago. So
Okay.
that's what we're thinking of. Now I'm
Yeah.
open to your suggestions too. We should talk
No,
off.
I think we should talk about it because AI is, I look at AI as a great equalizer. Think about it as I gave AI, my kid was at home today. I gave him AI and I just said, go do whatever you want to do. I have the paid versions of ChatGPT. I have the paid versions of everyone. And
Nice.
I gave him, go play with it. And I told him how to navigate. He never knew how to navigate the computer. He figured it out today. And
That's
he
awesome.
started talking to it. He said, you know what, I want to make, he's 7 year old. And
Okay.
he said, I want to make money. Tell me how a second grader can make money. It gave him ideas and this guy implemented them easily, fast. He said, you know what, you could draw stuff, you could write storybooks. And he said, give me ideas to draw. And he went and he did some paintings and he showed me, Dad, I'm going to sell this for $5.
That's
But
awesome.
it's just like, I just gave it to him and do whatever you want, wherever your thinking takes you. And he
Right.
also did a book and he was telling me, pushing me all day today, edit it in Canva. Let's put it out. I want to show it to my friends. So,
That's
it's, and he's just playing with it, right? I mean,
yeah.
he's just exploring himself, but
Right.
it is a great equalizer. You're basically talking about AI as a thought partner, as a brainstorming coach, and that's how Microsoft. There was Satya Nadella uses it. I use it for coding. I'm a tech guy. I use it to code stuff, to brainstorm my codes. I'm an architect. We'll talk about a lot of stuff that you can do, but
Yeah.
I'm using it for improving my workflows. Things that I would take me 6 or 7 months to do, I can do them in a few weeks now, for
That's awesome.
example, right? And I can do a lot more thinking, a lot more doing, and the quality of the output is good. So that's why I think about it as a great equalizer. You don't
Yeah.
need a large team. You don't need skills and knowledge that other people have and you don't have. You
Right.
can brainstorm with this, which is accessible to everyone. So lack of knowledge is no longer a determinant factor in anything you want to do. You can
I
just
agree.
prompt your way and get the knowledge and then implement it. So knowledge, there's a great equalizer because of that. So I don't
Yeah.
know, it will change business models. If people were gatekeeping knowledge, that will change. And also this is just more, it's better at thinking for some reason. It just gives better answers if you prompt it well. So
Yeah.
that is also another neat trick. So it's far more intelligent. So I think about this as intelligence as a service,
I agree.
a
Yeah.
thinking buddy, right? So
You just
there's
gotta
a
know how
lot
to
that you can do.
utilize it, right?
Yeah, you just have to use it right. And that's also an evolutionary curve. And all the companies are trying to get this. They're not done a better job of training the masses. It's only few people that have learned and trained. There has to be more trainings on this. It has to be more
Right. We have to learn
democratized of how to
how to
use it,
utilize it to get the
how to
best.
use it effectively, how to get the best answers, how
Yeah.
to, for you it could be any workflow in your company could be improved, right? But there's getting these intelligence, just a person, an intelligent AI agent to work besides you.
Yep.
It's just
100%.
like the Jarvis moment in Iron Man. So you have one guy who's always brainstorming with you. You just think and you brainstorm with it.
Yep.
So I like that. So I'm glad you're on the journey. Is there anything that prompted you? And it's very fresh. It's 2 weeks, and I like that you have taken immediate massive action in a way. You have one guy coming in, you plan that out, you're reading a book, getting yourself educated, all good approaches. Was there anything that prompted you in the
Yeah,
last two
I went
weeks?
to I'm in this group called YPO, Young Presidents Organization, and I went to a conference 2 weeks ago. It was a YPO real estate conference, and they had, like, I forget the guy's name, but he's like Sam Altman's right-hand man. He's, like, very high up, and he spoke for, like, an hour at the conference, and he was just talking about, how it can optimize your life and efficiencies and how to utilize it, and it really lit a fire under me where I'm like, "Hey, there's this new wave," and trust me, I'm more traditional. I'm kind of like, "Hey, AI is dangerous, it's gonna, like, I don't like what it's doing, but it's already gonna be here." It's kinda like the internet. It's like the internet gonna continue to evolve, and you can use it for good or bad, and it's gonna be here. It's a tool. So I'm now realizing all of a sudden, and I'm kinda late to the game, but I still feel like we're early on, that I can really get an edge on my competition. Is like, I need to embrace this, and
Yes.
the companies that don't, they're not only gonna be at a disadvantage, and some of them are gonna be extinct in 5 years because of it. And so I'm trying to be on the right side of this thing, and I wanna be an
Exactly.
expert, and I know it's constantly evolving, but I just see it as a significant competitive advantage that a lot of people are not embracing. And I I woke up a couple weeks ago. I was like, what am I doing? Like, I need to be the expert on this. Like, this is my advantage because I feel like a lot of people are kind of sleeping on it. And so, yeah, I was going to that conference and listening to different speakers, and that prompted me to read the book and start looking into more of this stuff.
I'm glad you have that in your journey. So let me tie this back in now. Talk to me for the next 6 to 12 months. What's your key priority? Where do you want to improve? What do you see as biggest challenges for you and where you think you need to improve? And if you have any insights into how you would do that, it just helps people to, because I think what you have done well is you have so much experience and in being in the trenches, seeing the dark side, and then coming on and scaling your company. So your answers will be much more nuanced that can help people plan too. So this is just an education podcast. Hopefully they can get some ideas of how
Yeah,
you think.
100%. I mean, for where we're at now in the stage of our company is I'm really trying to pull myself out of the company so that I can focus on strategic partnerships and bigger things. And so the next 6 to 12 months, we have this leadership team where we have, president and vice president of operations. I'm really focused on getting them to build out more infrastructure across the country so they can be at a higher level to support more growth and more scale. So like I am actively doing this in my role, and I'm trying to pull all of our highest level leaders up a tier. And to do that, they have to build out better infrastructure beneath them. And some of them, they're going to do it and adapt, and some of them aren't. And the ones that aren't going to do it, we're going to have to get rid of them. And we've been making that clear. And we tell people what's gotten us here is not going to get us there. And you need to evolve and learn as an individual and a leader, which includes me first and foremost. Otherwise, you're not going to be a part of this next phase or evolution of Rise 48. So that's what I'm focused on is getting our leadership team to see this bigger vision and backfill their roles and kind of develop into their new role. And then by them doing that, that will allow me to free up from, the day-to-day operations of running the company so I can focus on how do I generate these higher level partnerships with institutional equity. Because our goal is to raise $6 billion of equity the next 5 years. And I told our team that don't be surprised if 80% of that comes in the last 20% of that 5-year window. But it starts with generating these relationships now and getting
Mhm.
some large institutional funds going and then deploying it all in the back end. I told our team, look at 2018 through 2022 for our company. The first 3 years, we bought 60 million of real estate. And in the last 24 months, we bought 1.3 billion. You know what I mean? So that just shows you the exponential growth. So we had this meeting last week. I said, now if we can apply that same concept we've already achieved just on a larger scale, they're just numbers at the end of the day. So
Ultimately.
just numbers. So we have to just figure out the people, the relationships, and the strategy to get there. But it requires, the first iteration was me replacing what I'm doing to create the initial layer of leadership. Now we have middle managers and so now we have to do that, but at a larger scale across multiple layers of people. And so that's really what we're focused on.
So you're a 2 billion, you have 2 billion under management right now. Where do you want that number to be in the
Yeah. So we
next
were doing,
12
so
months and maybe 5 years?
our goal by the end of 2030 is for the corporate company to have an enterprise value of $2.5 billion, the corporate company enterprise value. And in order to achieve that, that's based on like carried interest and recurring revenue streams. We're calculating that we need to probably own around 100,000 units and raise about $6 billion of equity. So far, we've raised $1 billion of equity to get to where we are now. So we're effectively trying to 6x the next 5 years, maybe a little bit more than that even.
And Zach, it feels like there's a lot of market dynamics that it's cycles that you have to be on the right side of a year. Right. So I know 21, 22, it was a buyer's time. So talk to me about you need your market also to be a tailwind for you over here, right? It was a
Correct. Yeah,
headwind. And
we
you
do. Yeah, you're exactly right. And I told our team that too. I was like, hey, we can only control what we can control, but we actually do think that we're going to have significant tailwinds the next 5 years. And again, because of interest rates, because of supply getting absorbed, things like that. So we actually think now is the time to grow significantly. And that will help us because the last 3 years we've been growing. I mean, we've bought $1 billion of real estate the last 36 months and that we've just been battling. We've having to fight through a ton of headwinds to do that. So we feel like if we can get some tailwinds, we can kind
Yeah.
of accelerate that.
You definitely build a lot of infrastructure already, proof and relationships, and now it's about building those bigger relationships where your check size is probably a few millions or even tens of millions rather than 500 or 1 million. So I think if you do that with high level relationships, that's going to help, and then you just have to source the deals. That the market matters a lot more there because
Yep.
that area also is very competitive, right?
Yep. 100%.
Okay, that's good. Do you have a last bit of advice for anybody before you head out?
Yeah, I would just say, kind of going back to the initial theme of, if you want to start your own company, my advice for you is don't take crap from anybody. Like, don't let anybody tell you can't do it, because you're going to get a lot more negativity than people encouraging you. And you have to realize these people are coming from a position of, either they are projecting their own feelings on you because they don't think they can do it, so they don't think you can do it. They might be jealous that you actually have the courage to try it, or they could just be negative, pessimistic people. So you cannot listen to other people when you're trying to achieve your goals. It's a very lonely journey, and don't rely overly on mentors either. I mean, mentors can be great, but I tried to find a couple mentors, and the couple that I was trying to rely on, I told them my ambitions were bigger than what they had already achieved, and they started to become very negative. They said, "Oh, you can't do that, Zach. And we've already done much more than what I originally told them we wanted to do." And I don't talk to those guys anymore. You know what I mean? And so don't take crap from other people, because which is what I tell people, is that the person telling you that you can't do it, they're not the one that has to put in the work to get to where you want to be. You're the only one that's going to have to put in that work and break through all those challenges. So there's no reason anybody else can tell you what you can or can't do. So you have to have that mindset that it's kind of like you against the world. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? For me, I have to rely heavily on my faith. So I'm Christian. I
yeah,
believe Christ is my Lord and Savior, and that faith has always gotten me through.
yeah,
Praying and talking to God constantly every day. That's all you really have in this world. And whatever your faith is, if you're spiritual, whatever, you need some type of higher power to help get you through things, because humans can only get you so far, right? So that's my
yeah.
my advice to people.
And that's a nice place to wrap this up, Zach. While you were talking about faith, that was before you started talking about faith, that was the word that came to me, and I'm glad you said it. I was going to say it otherwise, but I think that's what it comes down to. Have faith in yourself, also.
Mhm.
Have faith in a higher self.
Yeah.
Believe in yourself. It's a lonely journey. Be okay with it. Uh,
Yep. Embrace that, right? You have to
Embrace
kinda,
it.
like, you have to really embrace those dark days. Like,
Yeah,
sometimes when I've had dark days, I try to tell myself, I say, "Okay, remember this. Like, remember this feeling, because when things are going well, I wanna remember this, because I'm gonna be grateful, and I'm gonna go to these dark days again. It's cyclical."
yeah.
Right? So you have to remember with the dark days, and it's kinda sick. After you do it, you go through enough of these cycles, Zico, what I've been realizing, it's like, I almost value the dark days better.
You
Sometimes I'm having
remember them more.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sometimes having so much adversity, and then I kinda smile. I'm like, "I live for this shit." You know what I mean? It's like, when things are going well, you don't really feel the fulfillment, and so
Wow, that's a nice one. Actually, that's so true. You feel more human when you experience the pain. So the dark days make you more human, right? Otherwise,
100.
it's just going with the emotions, and you have all the other toys or anything that keeps you distracted. So that's a nice place. How do people get in touch with you, Zach, if they want to
Yeah, so you guys,
invest for us?
if you want to know about our investments, you can go to our website, rise48equity.com, rise48equity.com, and you can set up a call with our team. You can shoot me an email, Zach, Z-A-C-H, at rise48equity.com, and we would love to chat with you. So thanks for asking, Zico. Appreciate that.
Thank you, and I'll put that out over here when we edit the video. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thanks, Zico. Appreciate it.